Good evening, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you once again. Tonight's video is a little bit different. Technically, it's reloading based because what we've got here is powder, primer, bullet, and some brass. But what we've also got is some overly priced $17 resin epoxy casting material. The two sides, the resin and the hardener. We have a casting craft mold, and the intent, along with our really big plastic stirring sticks and fancy little schmancy pouring cup, and some extra Starbucks shot glasses for pouring. The intent of this, and I probably will not do this with the camera in the way because that will just get all over everything. It'll be a giant mess. I've never done this before. I have no clue what I'm doing. And it sounds like I'll have to do it in multiple stages because the idea is to embed, and it looks like I might have to change my angles of brass. The idea is to embed this piece of brass. Maybe I change these angles out a little bit. This did not come out of the rifle like this, by the way. This was my doing. This was a round that got stuck at the range. It took us forever to get out. So when I came home, yeah, maybe I'll do it like that. So technically it looks like I'll have to have a layer as the bed to lay this on. Then maybe I will put another layer on so that the powder, projectile, and primer are a little bit higher up. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just playing with ideas here. The idea is to suspend the components in the epoxy resin so that it's a cute little paperweight, essentially. So I'll show pictures probably nowish, in that the round came out looking normal. It came out looking kind of like this, only the head was, because of the metal rod used to push the brass out of the chamber, the metal rod caught this and actually embedded it into the brass casing. So it looked, all the components were here, and that's somewhere in the garage now. All the components were inside here with no bullet up top. So the only way for me to get the bullet out easily, and I'm probably sure there's maybe another way, but the way I chose was anger and frustration, taking my little whatevers and prying that open, so that it gives it a little character, you must admit. So I thought I would make something memorable of the occasion. So I'll play with the angle of how open that is, and I'll suspend this in some sort of fashion like that. It's not a big mold. It's just basically wide enough for a casing. The powder will go on one side, and maybe the primer and the damaged head. So that's the plan. Like I said, I don't think I'll do this live, simply because I have no clue what I'm doing, which that's kind of never stopped me before. But it'll be messy. The camera's in the way. I'm pouring, I'm measuring. I'll probably be weighing it to make sure I have, because they make a big deal about identical amounts of epoxy and hardener, resin and hardener. So I think that's the game plan for the next few days. And I've read different things on how fast or how long it hardens. I think the guy at Tap said it's 20 minutes between layers. I've heard, 24 to 72 hours. And I've heard up to a week to cure fully. So who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm open to trying new things, and between the $5 for this tiny mold and the $17 for, I think it's $25 for everything, to highlight my boo-boo, my range boo-boo. So good day, YouTubers. So we'll call this a during. So you saw the before where I talked about easy cast, and this is my during. And I took a couple layered approach, a 2-layered approach to get this effect. So I drew my line, and then my first pour was to here. And I'll bring the instructions out because I have them in front of me right now in the garage. But the mold said pour, wait 20 minutes, and then embed. Well, I had to wait 6 hours because this and the weight distribution was identical, because I poured a certain amount and then I re-zeroed my scale and then poured in the other. I don't remember which I poured first, the hardener or the resin, but in any case, exact 50% each, as opposed to trying to visualize a measuring cup. So that worked out well, but I was caught off guard by the amount of time it took to not cure, but just harden enough so that when I would put the brass in, it wouldn't sink all the way to the bottom. In fact, it sank a little bit, but it didn't sink all the way to the bottom. And then the second pour 6 hours later was this level, roughly that level. And the reason behind that is because I wanted the powder, primer, and bullet to be at a different level than the brass, so that it all didn't look kind of janky. And we'll see how that effect turns out. But that's the during. So the next video will probably be the after. More to come. Good evening, YouTubers, fellow reloaders. I guess we can add hobbyists and epoxy resin casting to the list of interests: collections, hobbyists, antiquers, restorers, reloaders, what else? Handy persons, all that kind of good stuff. All right, so I did my third and final pour. Here's my pour lines, P-O-U-R, which could also be interpreted as P-O-O-R, depending on how nicely this does or doesn't come out. So as you can see, this did sink. So I probably, the idea was to get it at that level, and as you can see, it's well below that level. I don't think it's reaching the surface, but we will find out. I think there's like a millimeter. So obviously with polishing and stuff, I've got to be real careful so that I don't show the brass. But the idea was, and how long to wait is the issue, so that you don't have distinct pour lines. So this is a three level pour: level 1, level 2, and then obviously level 3. So level 1 was the base, level 2 was the brass, and the top of level 2 was putting the powder, the primer, the bullet in, and then pouring to make that complete. So we will probably leave this in here for a few days, because I don't trust any of the directions I've read about curing, because the directions for this cast said to wait 20 minutes before embedding an object, unless this was, the brass wasn't heavy, but it sank much lower than I would have preferred. And I should probably put it in focus for you guys. But don't look like bubbles. We'll have to when we take this out, I don't know if I'll destroy the mold or it'll just pop out. Maybe I'll read the directions and see. But once I do, I don't know if I'll have to sand and polish / buff it. But I mean, it's interesting. We'll see how it finally looks in a couple days. Back later. Good evening, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you once again. And this is the completion of the resin project. And it went so well with the first one. Again, this was the round that was stuck in the Lone Ranger, which I think I'll do a review on the Lone Ranger. But this was three layers. I have not done any sanding or buffing. This is just out of the mold and cured for a couple days. Again, there's the bottom. But this is the view. This is how it will set wherever I have it. So you have brass, varget, busted up bullet, and technically a live primer. So that came out so well, I decided to take what was in this little display that's all yuckied up. And this was my first squib on Father's Day 2015 with my Cobra Carry. So, and what I didn't realize happened after I took this out of the mold, I don't know if the camera will catch that, but you'll see little swirls. That was from one of the popsicle sticks cleaning stuff out, or what I thought was cleaning. I didn't realize that scratched it, and I didn't think much of it until I made this one, and you can probably see the swirls. So this will definitely have to be sanded and buffed, but this came out pretty good. Hopefully you can read first squib, Father's Day 2015. This was also 3 layers. The first layer was to set the bullet and the brass. That's why they're equally level, I guess. Whereas these are offset because I did them at different pours. But the first pour was to get a sealing for the brass and the bullet. The second pour was for the brass and bullet, and the third pour was for my little sign. And I did some experimenting, and in order to get the sign to be that level of white and legible, I had to laminate. So I printed and laminated, and that turned out great, because if I would have just printed and stuck the paper in the resin, it saturates it and turns it, you know, almost transparent, translucent, and you don't see the text as well. So I thought that came out pretty well. Like I said, I wish the top was as smooth and shiny as opposed to the swirl. So I'll let this cure probably for 3, 4, 5 days, because I don't want to sand and buff and polish and then F up the resin. But that is it. So this is trash now because that's effed up. So I might do some others. I probably won't make any videos of it, but that was a pretty cool thing. Again, paperweights for, you know, in the garage, on my bench as reminders, you know. Squib, no powder, pay attention. Again, this was a long time ago. This was 7 years ago. And this was just I don't effing know what went wrong with chambering this. I really don't. Scratch my head. But anyway, the resin project is done. So I'll piece these together from the other couple videos and post that up. Take care.